Are you ready? Are
I'm
you
ready.
ready for the day? Are you ready for the pirate broadcast? If you're not, you need to get a hold of some coffee so we could talk to Lee Everette today. Lee is an individual that I've actually met Lee in person. One of the few people on the pirate broadcast that I met in person. And we have some common interests in coffee. I like coffee. Lee likes coffee. We also want to talk a little bit about mental health, and maybe if we get into it, we have time, we'll talk about some workplace development, optimizing some of the things you can do in your workplace. So stay tuned, and let's introduce the pirate broadcast and all you pirates out there to Lee Everette. How are you doing, Lee?
Hey, man, I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, the thing that I love to do is introduce the community to people that they may not know, they may not have an awareness with, they may not, kind of, it's like, hey, let's highlight somebody here, make sure that people are informed and educated about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you got here. So talk a little bit about your LinkedIn journey first, and then tell us what you're doing right now with the coffee and mental health, and let's start the conversation.
Yeah, bunch of rabbit holes we can go down.
Yeah,
So
that's what it's all about.
that's
Interesting
right.
things.
That's right. So LinkedIn journey. I came from a talent acquisition background. I was on the agency side of recruitment, so I was spending all day, every day on LinkedIn, and I started to see just different trends. I started seeing some of the same faces pop up. I was connected with like Kristen Sherry and Gary Frey and some of these people in the Charlotte area. And that just kind of led me, down that rabbit hole. So I was just real curious, especially being, I guess, a millennial. I didn't really spend a lot of other time on social medias, but being on LinkedIn all the time, I was like, you know what, I might as well figure it out while I'm on here. There seems to be something to it. So I just started playing around with it, man. Started reaching out to folks, started setting up phone calls. And lo and behold, I started going to some of the LinkedIn local events here in Charlotte. And eventually I just recently became last year, the LinkedIn local host. So, it's been a really cool adventure, man. And I've met some awesome people, some of my best friends. I mean, heck, Chris, where I work with the Sugar Creek Coffee, we met through LinkedIn a couple years ago. I was messaging him, about something completely different. And we just so happened to connect and stayed in touch. And he ended up having some needs later on. I wanted to get out of corporate America. So, yeah, I had to end up just spending a lot of time on LinkedIn because of the nature of my work. And then I end up winning one of those whole Care Life packages that Lila Smith and a bunch of those other folks like put together however many years ago. So that was pretty neat. And that kind of like introduced me to a lot of the, other people that were connected in this little ecosystem. So that's kind of the LinkedIn piece in a nutshell.
Yeah. It's amazing how connected you can actually become and not even become aware of it because it feels like family, right?
That's right. Yeah.
It's like, okay, LinkedIn local, now that you're a host, you go and you show up and it feels like almost like a family reunion. It's like, hey, I've been seeing you. The great post the other day and the things that you can produce and put out are always entertaining and educational too. It's engaging, especially with the Sugar Creek Coffee Company. You have something there as a common goal. A lot of people,
sure.
I know I saw you on Brenda Miller's show and she was talking about coffee, and she's a huge fan of coffee, and she actually has a coffee mug and a few things like that.
Yeah, we had spoke before, and then that's when I saw her little coffee mug thing. I was like, you know what? I might as well see if she wants to try some coffee out of state and see if she really likes it. So she's become a huge fan and a really big supporter for us.
Oh, that's fantastic. I really appreciate her and all the things she does. Lila Smith, same way, she's going to be on the show. She's going to be up and coming. And I got so many wonderful guests, and I appreciate the time and all the gratitude in the world for you showing up, Lee, and talking about, some of the things that we're doing here. And, in your corporate background and going out after recruiting and things like that, that's a completely different opportunity than the coffee company. So what's your focus now, and what is it that you're excited about? What's the thing that you're most excited about?
Yeah, I mean, so the thing that drew me to talent acquisition, I had a mentor that came into my life, and he happened to be a relative, and I came from a 2 stoplight town, so I mean, I didn't really have much resources, didn't know what I was going to do. You know, my parents weren't too business savvy, so he happened to come into my life and just end up showing me there was a bigger world. And he ended up owning a staffing agency, you know, back in his time. And I was like, wait, you can make money by finding people jobs and having conversations. I was like, sign me up. So I would drive back and forth from my hometown to Charlotte, walking in, like shaking these folks' hands. And I finally got on, you know, with a company. But I enjoyed it, man. You know, the thing that I learned from it, you know, it's just, it goes back to LinkedIn, is the relationships. And that's why I wanted to get out on my own so I could start harvesting those relationships a little bit deeper and not just worry about finding a person for that, but actually look at the entire culture. Right. And that's kind of what ties into the coffee thing for me is, yeah, I was doing, you know, sales and talent acquisition, recruiting, and then that's pretty much what I'm doing now, in the same sense that, like, I'm doing sales, relationship building, operations, just wearing a bunch of different hats.
Sure.
But it just goes back to the premise of like relationships. And that's really the cool thing about coffee for me, is because I always liked good coffee, but I didn't know a lot about coffee. I didn't even know half of what I know now. And, you know, learning about it a little bit more, just to me, it's a good excuse to have conversation and bring people together. And then, you know, if you can enjoy a good cup of coffee while doing that, it just enhances that experience even more so. So that's what I'm really excited about. I mean, we've got an amazing product, we've got good things, and really we try to deliver a white glove service. And that really, you know, is what differentiates us. Because when you get into like high quality anything, you know, you're comparing apples to apples. Oh, this one's a little bit sweeter, this one's a little bit that, this one's a little bit this.
Yep.
So how do you differentiate yourself in the market, you know, against everybody else? And so for us, it's truly the relationships. Like, we don't push anything on anybody. We don't sign any crazy contracts.
Yeah.
It's like, look, this is us. This is how we operate. This is our personality. You know, we're here to serve you. We're here to get to know you. We're here to be friends. Like, you know, let's have some coffee and, you know, share experiences together. That's kind of what we do.
Yeah, I love that. And that's the whole purpose of the Pirate Broadcast is I just wanted to put content out consistently, invite interesting people doing interesting things. And, you know, coffee is, I think, universal. I think it's, you know, fairly well known. And like you said, the differentiator is the relationships you have. And I just want to take a moment here and give a shout out to some of the people that have joined us so far. Lee, Angie, good morning. Celeste, thank you so much for being here. Randall, he's down in New Orleans, and happy day. And so Lori, Arcot, Sherry, Lolly, good morning. Good to have you back. David, good to see you. Celeste doesn't drink coffee. Maybe you drink tea. I don't know. Maybe you drink water. I don't know. But I know that there's a common goal around a conversation, and LinkedIn is a common conversation. Coffee is a common conversation around a lot of times, and workplace, you know, balance and some of the things. And so what's the thing that you noticed, Lee, going from a corporate environment now and, you know, kind of getting mentored into that space and in the sales and the marketing, and now you're doing operations, you're doing sales, you're doing relationship building. Is it the same type of task, or is it a much different environment?
Much different, man. Much different. You know, and we can tie this into mental health here in a bit. But I mean, a lot of corporate cultures, man, are just toxic. I mean, I hit a pretty low depression a couple years ago, and, you know, and going into those environments for 8 hours a day were not helping. You know, setting, man, you're in these places and it does not contribute at all, you know, and then you take that and multiply it by X amount of people. We're all bringing our stuff that we have going on from our personal exterior lives into that. And then you're adding these people that just have no empathy or care, or, you know, it's numbers, it's money, it's this. So, you know, I was always a high performer and did well just because I needed to survive. And I don't come from a family with money. But completely night and day, man. And if I had to choose one word to sum it all up, it would be trust. Is that a lot of companies, they hire these employees, you got to work your way up the food chain and the little mouse game. And it's only when you get to a certain level when they start to trust you a little bit more, and when you've proven yourself and when you've given enough to them, that's it's like really a monetary value. For us, it's nice because Chris, man, I mean, he trusts me, and that's what's been the best and able for me to thrive, is that I have an entrepreneur mindset. I've got my own little projects I'm working on, but it's allowed me to be able to be creative in something I haven't been able to be creative, because I feel like public schools and a lot of things crushed my creativity growing up. So it's been able to harvest, man, just this environment that I've been able to thrive in, because I can be myself. I can be trusted. I treat it like it's my own company. And we're true partners, man. We're true colleagues. And so he treats me as an equal. We're just a 3-man team. I'm technically like his first employee / partner. Hopefully it's going to grow into more. But yeah, man, it's just trust. It's being able to thrive in an environment where somebody knows that you're going to represent the brand well, that knows you're going to do right by others, that knows you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And it's just being treated like an adult. And I've seen that in corporate America, regardless of how much tenure or experience you have, trust and that communication really lacks big time.
Well, and it's interesting also because it's part of integrity. It's part of the ability to think outside the box. And in a startup environment or in early stages in any company, you have an opportunity to really think differently, be differently, as the saying goes. And as someone that has creativity, because I believe we all have creativity and we all have the ability to create, sometimes we have to give ourselves permission. And that goes back into the mental health issue. It's like, okay, if you got this years of baggage and the things that are inside your head telling you can't do it, or, someone once said that why are you doing that? That's a dumb idea. Or, putting labels or designations on you are not necessarily true, So I think, you broke out of the corporate mode and you went in and you made some adjustments to your life. And how did that benefit your mental health and the state of mind that you're in? And also, how does it influence your creativity now?
Yeah. So those environments just always press me mentally, because it was like it's almost like a false reality. You had to be and act somebody that you completely weren't. And it's like this big song and dance game. And I tell people it's like high school times 100 almost. It's like, you take that same mentality of high school with all these little cliques and this and that and gossip and all this, and then you take it and put it in the adult world. And it's even worse, because we've got more resources and a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more like almost hate, so people have that more malice. You involve money, at least school, you're not chasing money, you're chasing grades, but you throw some money in front of these cats and it gets bad, man. So, for as far as my mental health goes, just those things would just throw me in a spiral, especially when I didn't really love myself. And so like a couple years ago, I probably loved myself for the first time, and I'm 27. And so in 26, 27 years, I realized that like I had hated getting in my own head. I hated my own thoughts. I tried to escape everything, but then really I realized that like I had a lot to offer. I had more confidence, because growing up I had no confidence at all. So I call it the pendulum swing. So like, it goes from one extreme to another, and I'm just trying to find that balance. And going through those things, I'll be forever grateful, because I did see, those times where I had no confidence, no self-love. And so just working through that just did not help in the corporate environment at all, because I still had some self-discovery to do. And I was always genuine, but everybody was always so guarded and jaded and think you're out to get their money or doing this or doing that. It's just this big, and it could be the industry I was in. Who knows? It differs for everybody.
Sure.
But yeah, getting out of that and into, the coffee company, that boosted my creativity, because it gave me, again, that word trust, that trust and freedom to like, what, like, let's try this. Like, it's not costing us much money. We're not going to like show bad in public. So let's try it. And so that's a thing too, like in corporate, like if you just give people the opportunity, you know, because a lot of times you don't even have the opportunity. If it's not in your job description, don't even think about touching it. So
Right.
I think we just had to let adults be adults, let people be people, and let us have fun, because we've taken the fun out of everything, man. It's just like, you know, life's one big game. It's very serious, but it's not so serious all at the same time. So if we can find that balance, I think it helps a lot of people.
Well, I think a lot of people are coming to the realization, and you know, I preach kindness, and I share the kindness is cool and smiles are free for a reason.
Mhm.
And I know that you know, every day is a gift. You
That's
know,
right.
it's like you wake up and it's like, holy cow, what an amazing world we live in, that we can do things like this. This conversation is you know, magic
Mhm.
compared to 20 years ago. And the fact that we're here and we're able to do these things is you know, pretty life changing for a lot of individuals,
I
especially in the
agree.
creative world.
Yeah.
You know, and all of a sudden you're seeing different platforms, you're seeing different conversations, and with all of that good, you know, that good and beneficial outcome is also a dark side, because a lot of people are, you know, they're looking at their phones all day, and they're in their, you know, their own head, and they're not really communicating or having conversations like this.
Chasing the algorithms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're chasing the algorithm, and also in the workplace, things are moving quicker, things are moving faster, the paces are up, the stress is up, the anxiety is up, and you know, my personal experience is, you know, the suicide rate is up, and that's not the best outcome for humanity, in my
No.
opinion. Uh, and also, and I live in technology. I love technology, and I
Yeah.
love looking at new things and how they work. And you know, my curiosity is always up. You know, my antennas are out for looking at new stuff, and it's really about this idea, if we can actually slow down and, like you said, have some self care and self love, and understand that we're still human. You know,
Right.
we're all the same species here,
Right.
and we need to really think about what other people are doing and how they're doing it, and how we can help each other.
Yeah.
Uh,
You said a few cool things, man. I was actually talking to somebody yesterday or the day before, no,
mhm.
yesterday, about the speed and how everything's just rapidly like speeding up. And that's what's funny is like, you know, I think this dimension, this world is very slow. Like our pace is supposed to be a lot more slower. My mentor used to call it slow hand, and that's
Mhm.
what his little reminder used to be, is like to just slow things down.
Yeah.
But I think we're trying to, you know, you even see some of these videos on LinkedIn, you know, they're so choppy. And I think they look cool and they got the cool little emojis and stuff popping up. But like, what does that do to our attention span, man? Like, we can't even watch a video that's, more than 2 minutes, that's not like chopped up and like quick and to the point like that. We can't like hear the flow in the conversation. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting time for sure.
Yeah. And I can't prescribe to any outcome. I can only suggest that there are times where it's great to, you know, put it on pause and just
Hmm.
walk away from it, go to the woods, or go take a walk, or you know, change your
Yeah,
state of mind. And
that's my favorite thing. The woods.
yeah,
I love the
and I
woods.
think that if people realize that that's an option, you know, that they can turn this off. You know, it doesn't have to
Yeah.
stay on, and just walk away once in a while. I think that would be beneficial for everyone, and you know,
Agreed.
connections, and you know, going out to eat, or you know, I spent time with my son last night. You know, we went out to dinner and had some great conversations, and we were laughing and having a good time. And it's one of those things that you can't remove, or you can't have that time back.
Right.
So let's try to enjoy each other's company and talk about things that matter. And you know, that's another hashtag I love, is make it matter, because
Right.
you know, we're here to make an impact in our world, and everybody has a gift. You know, so I
Yeah.
want to ask you, Lee. You mentioned earlier that you know school kind of crushed some of your creativity. So if you were your 5-year-old self now, what kind of creativity would be showing up in the world right now?
Um, Man, you know, I've just always been a connector, man. Like, even if I'm not even involved in something, or I don't know
Hmm.
anything about whatever's going on, I love just making that connection and being part of the experience. Like, for example, I've got little like DSLR camera. I suck at like, I'm just learning manual mode and all that. I've had it for like a year. Haven't done anything with it. But like, I have a decent eye, and I've always been afraid to try because we always want to do something and be perfect at it the minute we start. But, I went out to a little music video recording. A buddy of mine does media and stuff. And so just being in that realm and that experience, like putting ourselves in different areas that we're uncomfortable in, just to have fun, going back to that, it's like, I think even like as my 5-year-old self and as I got older, I wasn't having the fun. I had a good childhood and whatnot, but I wasn't having the fun I should have because I was so, caught up in my mind. So, now looking back at that as, I would just learn to like let go and trust, man. It's just, I used to battle with the word faith quite a bit. And, I think regardless of what religion you subscribe to, then I think we can all relate to a little bit of faith and just having that trust of things that's unseen that we can't necessarily put words to, because words mess up a lot of things. Sometimes it's back to your point, that silence. And, I grew up in a little small redneck town, so I grew up hunting and stuff. But the biggest thing I remember about hunting is that just that stillness. You could tell like whatever, if it was a squirrel that was jumping on the leaves, or if it was a deer, if a person was walking through the woods or whatever. So it's like, I love going back in nature and just sitting there, man. I've gotten into like mushroom foraging and some other cool little things just to give me an excuse to be out in the woods, because to me, that is where you don't have those power lines. You don't have the traffic. You don't have, and it's just like, the symphony of nature. You can just hear it, man. And especially when it's still and the animals start coming back out, you're like, man, this is cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I think if we could realize the power of silence and it's becoming even more rare every day. And it's amazing what you can do when you're in your own head. And I think a lot of us, and myself included, we fail to produce an outcome or an output of some kind because of the judgment that we feel others may place on us. Right. And at the end of the day, it's really, a lot of people don't care what you're doing because they're wrapped up in their own world. And
then our own narratives on top of that. We always think like, say one person out of 100 is like, oh, you know what? Lee's crazy. Like he is out there. He's into some weird crap. The dude is weird. So like, if I take that one example and apply it to everybody, now I'm telling this narrative to myself, like, oh my God, everybody thinks I'm crazy. Everybody, so it's like, it's what we tell ourselves. And then, like you said, what we're kind of like trying to get from other people, man. Cause it's just like you said earlier, it's so much easier to just smile at somebody than to like, to judge them or say something. Like, I've learned that, especially at this age, it's none of my business. If you want to look, as long as you're not harming anybody and hopefully not harming yourself, I don't care what you do, who you do it with, where you do it at. Just as long as you're not hurting anybody, then
causing damage.
Right.
Yeah, it's so funny because when perfect, like you mentioned, you want to wait until something's perfect to put it out there, but perfection just crushes productivity. And there's no such thing as perfection. And it's like, okay, just put something out there, ship it, make sure that you're doing something, you're getting started. I was having a conversation with Gabriel yesterday, as a matter of fact, last night, and we were talking about the opportunity to start a podcast. And I gave him, some tools and some platforms that you can use to start a podcast. Super easy, for free. And, sometimes we make it too complicated. We make it so overwhelming that we really can't get started because we're stuck in our own head about how this needs to look and what it needs to be. When in reality, if we push something out the door, then we could see what it produces and get some feedback, and then we can see what it looks like and we can play with it. And you have to put it out there and figure it out, before you can actually see what's happening with it. So it's like when you're roasting coffee, you get a certain combination of beans, and until you've actually done that batch a few times, you really don't know what the outcome is going to be. I'm sure, exactly. I haven't roasted coffee. However,
that's exactly right. It's like alchemy, you got to do the air, the temperature, the gas, and it's just trial and error until you dial it in.
just think, if Edison hadn't, tested things 10,000 times, it's like the light bulb might be completely different, right?
Right.
Or all of these inventions that we have, there's connections, there's failures that evolved into happy circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about the idea that we can actually put something out there, test it, try it, and evolve. So
Just
I
have some
want to ask,
patience.
go ahead.
I said, just have some patience.
Yeah, just have some patience. Give yourself permission
That's right.
to produce. That's the whole point of the Pirate Broadcast. You have permission to do it. I give you permission. You have permission. Go out and create right now.
For sure.
So you're a Pirate Broadcaster. So Lee, let's talk about some of the things that I want to wrap this up. And I want to, before we walk away from this today, I want to make sure that we have a conversation about workplace behavior and some things that we can think about to change our behavior or modify our behavior, and either in the workplace or in life in general. I know that that's something that you've been interested in working on and sharing. And if you can kind of maybe speak to that a little bit, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think number one, you have to want to help yourself. I think you have to want to, I don't want to say like everybody gets stuck on like personal development, the word, especially in corporate America, like that's a word that's overused, but you got to want to like understand and know yourself, because everything's already within you already. So you are who you are already. There's no like working up to who you are. You just have to align. I use the word align a lot, yourself to who you feel you should. And that starts with like being honest with ourselves. We lie to ourselves constantly.
Mm-hmm.
So when we lie to ourselves, how can we be accountable with everybody else, right? It's back to self-love. If we can't love ourselves, then we can't be the best spouse, the best dad, the best coworker, the best boss. So first and foremost, I would recommend people to just start working on yourself. Like you said, go out in nature, paint, do whatever you do that brings you joy to your life and that brings creativity and excitement, just a sense of awe. And then you're taking that new mindset into corporate America. And then to me, people used to tell me all the time, oh, you're 27 years old. You don't know anything about culture. You've never managed a large team. You've never read this book. You don't have an MBA. I'm like, man, and see, and that's the problem with half of what we're talking about. Like all these things, you're trying to put these parameters and boxes on to say that just because somebody doesn't have this certificate that they sat and paid for, that's not very hard to do. I'm not knocking anything, but like if you have a halfway decent brain, you can put yourself through any type of education. But life experiences you can't buy or mimic or replace. And so my life experiences and the way my perception is, yes, I know a little bit about people, and especially with my mental health, I've lived it. So I'm always trying to help somebody just at least share what I've gone through, and then they can Frankenstein their own, because I never want somebody to do exactly what I did, because it's not going to work. Yeah. So that's what I hate when, people get on LinkedIn and they're like, oh, follow these quick 5 easy steps to become successful, or do this or do that. I'm like, man, that worked for you. It's not going to work for everybody. You can't package this up and sell it to everybody thinking it's going to work, all willy-nilly. So, when you get in these corporate environments and, if you're in leadership or you own a company, just put yourself in other people's shoes. I think when we do that, it solves a lot. As silly and simple as it sounds, it solves so much, because it puts it into perspective, for one. And for two, you're able to see both sides, because there's always two sides to everything. There's a million sides to everything. So just putting that into perspective, and then just realizing that culture is just a combination of different people, different behaviors, ideas, perceptions, that you're aligning to a common goal. That's all it is. And so how do you get this, population to work together efficiently? It goes back to trust and freedom. Just let people be who they want to be in the culture. As long as you hire good people and their intentions are good, you don't have a problem.
Yeah. And a little bit of compassion and empathy goes such a long way.
For sure.
So as we wrap this up, Lee, and I get on with our hopefully busy days, we can, and productive. What would be one thing that you'd want to leave with the world today, and that we can actually share and enhance the value of the conversation here?
And I guess if I had to say one thing, just looking back on my own life and just my own journey, I just would say, like, give yourself a break. Like have that patience, because that's probably one of my worst virtues is I have been working on patience a lot, and then having my first little one helps me tremendously with that.
Yeah.
I would just tell people to just enjoy the journey, be present in the moment, and give yourself a break. I've always been my number one critic, and that's why I didn't have any self-confidence. I didn't have any self-love, because I was constantly feeding myself, oh, you idiot, you're fat, you're this, you're that. It's like, look, as long as you're moving forward, it doesn't matter if it's this much or that much, you're moving forward. So it's not a race, as cliche as all you hear these other quotes. Like, just everybody's on different life paths and life journeys. And if you come across somebody like you and I did, let's wave a hand, let's have a conversation, let's break bread, and then let's help each other. Because I think, life is very much individual, but it's very much collaborative. It's like everything else, it's a balance. So I would just say, just be easy on yourself and get to know who you are. And then just follow that inner voice. It's within you.
It is within you. Well, Lee, thank you so much for joining the Pirate Broadcast. And now you're an official pirate. So, that comes with benefits and opportunities, right?
Cool.
So let's go out there today and let's make sure. And thank you everyone for joining us. Angie, Gabriel, Arcot, Lori, Kenyatta, thank you so much for being here. Celeste and Sherry Lawley. All of the individuals that have joined us today, and the people that are out there listening to the replay, connect with Lee. If you're not connected, reach out to him, start the conversation, and let's have a little bit of empathy, compassion in our lives. And as you always know, kindness is cool and smiles are free. So you enjoy the day. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks for having me, man.